Welcome back to another episode of Smack Talk, social, mobile, analytics, and cloud. It's a Friday. It's probably not a Friday where you're listening to, or if it is a Friday, I think we have a 1 in 7 chance of it being a Friday that you're listening to the podcast. We record these on Friday afternoon. My name is Brian Fanzo, better known as iSocialFans on the Twitters, the Snapchats, and everywhere else you want to go find somebody. But we are talking about something a little trendy. We like to go trendy sometimes. We go topical. We go very industry based as well. And today we are going into the conversation around Pokemon Go, but really around what the technology impact is, as I don't believe myself and Daniel are users or players or gamers or Pokemoners or whatever the moniker is, but we know enough about the game technology side that it definitely intrigues us. But before getting to that, how are you today, Mr. Daniel Newman?
Haven't walked off of any cliffs, have not walked on any train tracks, have not walked in front of any cars because I have not picked up any Pokemons. However, I'm totally stoked about the technology, about augmented reality, and about just how ready the world is to blend our reality with technology, which is super cool. And yes, it's Friday, which means I'm feeling good. I've got my hat on because my hair was a little wild today. And I've got my Arsenal shirt on because we're less than 1 month away from the start of the season. And it's time to start getting a little good luck around here, Brian. But I'm feeling pretty good today. It's Friday, and I got a lot of good news to share, but only some of it can I share here. The rest of it, you guys are going to have to wait. But put it this way, Brian and I, we're going to be doing some globetrotting in the next few months.
Bring on the globetrotting. I tell you what, I like it. Let's travel the world. So, so I'll take your word on the soccer season starting. That's outside of my purview. But yes, I think it's always entertaining and always a good time to get on here and bring some conversation around some of these topics. So for those that, well, actually, I don't even think you might have lived under a rock and someone might have moved that rock to try to get a Pokemon, and therefore everyone have at least heard of it. I always say that nothing is really truly a trend or viral until my mom knows. And my mom knew about Chewbacca Mom for live streaming, and my mom knew about Pokemon from a gaming perspective. So from that standpoint, it is definitely a craze that has taken over, pretty much taken over society as a whole. And, there's an element here where the game is mobile driven. It allows you to use the camera on your phone with really GPS as the main feature, less than augmented reality. It has its own augmented aspects built into it. But so much about the technology and really actually about the mindset of the users is really what we wanted to talk about here. And to me, I've been preaching the importance of participatory content. I mean, Daniel, podcasts had long been recorded only on Skype and back channeled. It was, you were recording it kind of off the record so you can go live. And now we really love bringing in different aspects. We are streaming on 3 different channels right now: Blab, Periscope, and Facebook Live. And really the goal there is not only to get people access to our content, but also pull in different comments, different questions, different insights that people might have. And I think Pokemon Go is really this true aspect that people not only want to relate and connect with people that have similarities with them or that like the game or that are into the technology, but they might just want to get out of the house. And as a workout person yourself, Daniel, I think the entire world getting out and doing more walking, I think as a whole, that's probably a good thing for our society, especially in America. But what are your initial thoughts there on the thing? And we'll get into some of the individual technologies as we go along.
Well, I think we've proven the fact that our use on our devices is way up. The amount of time we spend on our devices is way up. In the TED Talk I did, right, I talked about 150 times a day we check our phone. 150 times a day, 22 hours.
I was just checking mine on Periscope, so that's why.
Us 18 to 44-year-olds, 150 times, 22 hours. First thing we do in the morning, check our phone. So any company that doesn't see that as an important part of their business strategy is missing a point. So Nintendo, right, a company that has sort of been irrelevant for a long time. Really, I mean, who talked about Nintendo, right? We talk about, Xbox, if you're a gamer, PlayStation. Maybe the kids a little bit, but in one weekend, I'm trying to remember, what was it, $7 billion? Was it $7 billion in new wealth they created for the company by creating an app where people could use a map, basically a mapping application with a hide and seek application to find these Pokemon. And then you got people off the couch. You got kids outside their house on summer break doing something. So from a understanding of market forces and where things are going, I have to give a huge kudos to Nintendo. And I also, like I said, when I first jumped onto this show, Brian, this is a huge indicator of where we're going and the market's interest in blended reality. Meaning, like, I'm not certain that just yet we're willing to put our goggles on and completely strap ourselves into the home. But with augmented reality, what we're doing is we're actually saying, you're already walking down the street staring at your phone. Why not walk down the street, stare at your phone, and do something productive that's good for yourself, get you out walking. It's good for commerce. It's a way to engage businesses with people in their communities. And that's also, taking, I guess I would say, your everyday behavior and giving it a little more spice, which clearly people like all three of those things. And that's why everybody but you, Mr. FOMO, and me are using Pokemon Go.
And I want to pose this question to you, and our mutual friend of the show, friend of everything we do, Vincenzo Landino, had me on his podcast, Brand Boost Podcast. Guys, check out the Brand Boost Podcast. Shout out to Enzo on that. He had me on his podcast kind of right after the whole Pokemon Go explosion, and that wasn't the topic of everything we were talking about, but he actually, his standpoint was he believed that people are desperately looking to escape reality. And I actually felt like that was not the case. I felt it was the idea that we wanted to connect and experience a reality that involved other people. But I put that question back to you, Daniel. Do you think part of this craze of Pokemon Go, and really it blends into everything in technology, in the technology space, are people looking to escape their day-to-day lives by kind of going into this kind of immersive experience, or is it something new that we're trying to kind of expand from an entertainment and a new, I'd say we're almost asking new questions? Where do you sit on that? Because I was surprised how adamant Enzo was on that topic. I'm
not sure that getting us outside the house and into the public is escaping our lives. I think when we hide in our rooms and play on Snapchat, that's more escaping our real lives and trying to, purely immerse ourselves in our digital realm, right? And only be connected to people that we never see and never talk to. By the way, this show is not brought to you by Monster. We just both happen to be.
Yeah, we both just happen to drinking it.
So my feeling is the immersive angle of augmented, the immersive angle of taking people's realities and blending them with their digital and physical world. In many ways, to me, it opens up doors to more real and authentic communication. Now, I think it's early. But I think, as one of the biggest opportunities that I've seen with augmented reality has been training, for instance. Now, this case, it's about training people to get off the couch, right? Training people to do their job, right? Gamifying somebody's training at work, where you could augment the map of your corporate headquarters and give them 6 tasks, like a scavenger hunt, where they can then find different departments and offices and learn where HR is and figure out where their team is. And what I'm saying is you could put little games and collection points inside of an augmented app, and then on your phone you're doing this throughout the day, and you're learning your skill, your job, your company, all while participating, right? You talk about participatory. We talk about this new rules of learning, right? People don't read the manuals anymore. One of the TED Talks I was at, actually, the guy talked about that. The old way of learning is you used to play a board game. You'd read the manual, right? Now what you do is you just start playing the game. And that's a lot of what Pokemon is, right? You downloaded it, you just started finding Pokemons and playing it. And all of a sudden, over a period of time, you become a master at it. So think about how valuable that could be for training, how valuable that could be for kids. All of our kids that are these competitive athletes, Brian, like think about if you blended augmented reality and said, here's 16 agility training drills that we could do a blended reality for kids, ladders and stuff. And then you mix it up and the kids are following the instructions on their phones and they're checking boxes and they're playing a game while simultaneously getting better at something that you don't actually do on your phone, which is pretty cool.
I agree completely. I know Brent Schlenker's here in the comments, and Brent and I actually used to work for Brent over at IO, and he's over at Litmus now, and does a lot in the learning and development space. And he actually had a show on Blab earlier today on really video in the training and learning space. And big shout out to Brent. I think that's an exciting one. I also people are on my Periscope are bringing up the idea that how Yelp is now integrating Pokemon spots into Yelp. I mean, if I was at Foursquare, I would be putting my head through a wall, because how did Foursquare not think about this type of interaction or gaming or collaboration or partnership with one of the gaming companies when you really, I mean, Foursquare, I mean, I'm still a user. There's not very many users that are still, like, I'd say, as active on it as I am. And I do it, I mean, it's because it's so integrated in my workflow. It's one of those things that I just do innately. It's also nice to know when the last time I've been at some restaurants or when I travel to some cities over and over again. But I mean, some of the stuff that we have to think about, you know, the data, let's switch this conversation to kind of the data. Can you imagine the data that Nintendo and they have now to understand the walking patterns, the traffic integration, the really where people kind of come together? Like if I owned one of those like popcorn carts or a snow cone cart, I want that data. I want to know, you know, if I'm in Santa Monica, California, and I want to know where the people were coming from, the foot traffic, where they were engaging on this, you know, because not only is this data massively valuable, but it's also data that is in real time that we know. It's not just people, you know, going towards one common piece. And I think one of the things that you were talking about, Daniel, that really is a big deal to me is, you remember those choose your own adventure books as a kid? I loved those. And part of it, the reason was they gave us swim lanes and we had certain options, but we really did get control the outcome and the process that we did things. And I think that's the same with businesses and really how we're doing here. And I see our friend Chocolate Johnny, who is in Australia, which I'll be visiting in a couple of months. He owns Perfection Chocolates over there, probably one of the most innovative small businesses you will meet as far as how they integrate Snapchat and live streaming and selling products around the world. And Johnny's a good friend. And, you know, he's talking about, you know, he's even emailing Nintendo trying to get a Poke Store, you know, Perfection Chocolates and get something, you know, get different things at his small and medium sized business. Because I was at a gas station on a Tuesday night at about 11:30 p.m. and I walked in and there was about 45 people standing in front. I'm like, man, what is going on at this gas station? And come to find out, I couldn't figure out. I thought they were giving away something for free or someone won a lottery ticket. And sure enough, there was just one of the gyms or one of the pieces that are inside the Pokemon game. And it had driven so much traffic there that I think the idea of understanding GPS data, understanding foot traffic data, because let's be real, right now, businesses are still marketing in the idea that they think they know where their clients and customers are coming from. How about if you actually knew where they are coming from, the traffic, the pattern, even where they are going through? I know that might be a little scary for some, but the data element of this really does excite me.
Yeah, only Apple and Google know more. And unless you know how your settings work on your Apple phone and you don't turn it off, Apple actually knows every stop you make, every place. I feel like a Sting song. Remember that Every Breath You Take? Well, that was a song about a guy that stalked his ex. Well, our phone is stalking us, but that's okay. We love it. We don't care. We just signed those license and term agreements. That's the future, the way the world works. But for Nintendo, it's a great opportunity, but it's also a great learning exercise in human behavior. What motivates people? What type of digital stimuli can you present to somebody that would make them change their behavior? Because I had a CEO of a company I worked for, and he said to me, he says, I will pay for behavior change. I will pay any amount of money if I can understand how to change behavior. And that's a really difficult thing to think about, but this game changed behavior. And that's why I said this game got a sedentary generation of my children off the freaking sofa for more than 5 minutes in the middle of summer to do something. This showed that we have a strong addiction to this thing.
Yep. Yeah. Hey, look at that. I think like a fan love.
Strong addiction to this thing.
However, those that are listening on audio only, he was holding up his phone to the camera there.
I forget that there's audio only. Brian, you have to remind me every once in a while. But we have a strange and powerful addiction to the phone device, to our mobile device. But we still desire to have that external contact, to get outside the home, but we need the right stimuli to change our behavior. And that to me is what's been overwhelmingly proven with this game. And like I said, while I haven't chosen this particular game, I've been fascinated for a long time about augmented reality. Remember we went out to California, we were at Jayville, and we were looking at some of the augmented reality on top of desks that could show a line employee how to do their job by simply having an overlay on their desk of an order of instructions for assembly. And it could take someone's training from weeks to hours to minutes to, and that's kind of what I think is happening here is we are very good at using technology to learn. There's a new direction in how we learn. The rules are changing. We teach ourselves. We are self-taught. It's the YouTube generation. Well, this just added a very powerful layer, Brian, to the next generation of how they can. This might be the YouTube of the next generation. You know, we learn our stuff by going on YouTube. I want to learn a new piano song. I go on YouTube. I watch it and then I hack it out. Well, augmented reality, overlaid keyboards, right? Why would you take a kid to a piano lesson?
Right.
We could just project right onto their iPad that's sitting next to there, show them the keys and the finger movements, and they can just emulate, teach themselves piano. Fraction of the cost, fraction of the time, massive efficiency, and uses a technology that embraces the way kids want to learn today.
Yeah, I mean, and one of my good friends of mine has an app, and he does live event food delivery. And one of the things for him in augmented reality, the augmented space is huge. Because imagine if you could put the augmented flag would go up where you're sitting in the lawn section of your concert. And when someone wanted to deliver food, the person wearing the augmented glasses would just literally see a flag over your head and be able to deliver the food to there. Or even the concept of that kind of, how do we kind of put that together when you're walking down the street and, for me, like, let's say you're in Austin for South by Southwest and you're able to actually see other people, not only what they're posting to social media, but maybe you'll see and be able to connect with people because it'll show kind of your interactions with them. I mean, I have a new plugin for my on my email. I have to figure out the name of it while we're talking here, but I have a plugin for my email that does it serves you up all of the data and the interactions you had with the person that's emailing you. And I absolutely love because it's giving me more data to better serve the email, create a better experience. And I think for those that are listening to this and thinking about like, what are you talking about with where this comes in? Not only do we want to participate, not only do we want some aspect of fun and motivation, but we also are really, really looking for a new experience. We want to kind of push the envelope. We want to, be a part of things. And I think as a society, and unfortunately, it seems like tragic events are happening every single day. While we are about to go on air for this show today, there's some tragic news happening in Munich, Germany, and our thoughts go out to all of those families and everybody out there. But I think part of this is, not only augmented reality, but things like Pokemon Go. I was in a Chick-fil-A and I saw people all playing the game. So I went up to a gentleman. He was 55 years old. And I said, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Oh, I'm playing Pokemon Go." He goes, "My teenage son and my granddaughter are both playing the game. And I decided to get into it. And now I really love this interaction." And sitting next to him was an 11-year-old boy whose mom was sitting at the table. And the 11-year-old was playing it. And it was funny kind of for me, kind of looking at it from like that uber geeky human. I love looking at the human condition. And these strangers were all rallying around, like standing around, talking about who they were, what their backgrounds were, their experience, where they had walked from. And it was almost like it was knocking down borders and barriers in our lives and being able to interact with people because of that common, denominator of Pokemon Go. And I think maybe that's like our hope and our faith with, society, because, right now things seem to be all over the place. But I like to think that, as we integrate tech and as we really understand where technology goes in, it is not about more technology. It is kind of about what Pokemon did. It's about technology and gaming and having fun that also allows us to grow relationships, community, and hopefully for small and medium-sized businesses, some foot traffic with all that, those people coming in the door.
Yeah, it's hard to say what's actually going to happen with this, Brian, because it is a gaming, but the real power behind it is the commerce. But I guess that's been going on for a long time, right? With pretty much all app gaming, it's been the monetization hasn't really come from selling users, right? I mean, you download Scrabble free, and that's an old school game, but you're playing on your phone. But the way they monetize that app is, hey, we got 1 million people playing the game. We're going to charge a little bit of money for the advertisements on the game itself, right? So what we're basically dealing with now is I think we're looking at a new way, a new rule of engagement, a new rule for the behaviors that people are partaking in as they implement technology into their lives. So you kind of made an interesting point when you're talking about bringing people and generations together through a game like this. Grandpa's playing the game because his granddaughter is playing the game and he wants to do something to bond with his granddaughter. One of my first and immediate most powerful connections to Snapchat was my 14-year-old was on Snapchat.
Exactly.
And it was a way that her and I could connect and communicate. Goes back to what I talked about, talk to people in the channel that they want to be communicated in. So if my daughter wants me, she's going to text message me. If I want her, I Snapchat her. If I want to talk to my dad, I call him on the phone And if I want to talk to my mom, I go visit her in person. Everybody's got a different preference, right, in terms of how they communicate. And that's going to be the key. But I still think the blended reality thing really feeds off of our technical obsessions. It feeds off of the fact that we want to be on our devices all the time. We want to learn on our devices. We want to live on our devices. The stat I gave earlier, 150 times a day that we pull our device out of our pocket. What can we do that makes that most valuable, most productive to better ourselves? I'm not sure it's Pokemon Go. I'm being really honest. But what I do love about the Pokemon Go move is it proves the point that people are ready. It proves the point that people are ready to combine their reality, their physical reality with their digital reality. And that means blended reality is going to be very, very much a part of how we shop for the rest of our lives. I could see every retail shopping experience. You're going to walk into a store. You're going to have a map overlay. It's going to know your data, your behavior, the clothes you like. It's going to get you to the right shelf. It's going to give you incentive to buy certain items, knowing you. It's going to pull you through because it's basically combined your behavior, personalized data, and created a new experience. Talk about marketing into the future. Reality is what virtual reality can never be in the physical world. You cannot sit on your couch with a big ass pair of goggles. You can't take that into the store. If I go into the mall and people are walking around with those, I'm just going to jump. I'm just going to jump because I'm done. But with the phone, you can actually walk into the store and think about it as wearables become more popular, and you add the augmented reality to wearables. You got your Google Glass. You can all of a sudden the whole store, Brian, is overlaid into your glass. Yeah, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah,
don't do it.
You wouldn't be happy if I was walking around the mall like this.
I want to, you know what? In my family room, it's awesome. I think there's a ton of potential for it. I look forward to test driving my next car. I look forward to touring my next house. There's a lot of things I look forward to doing in virtual reality, but I still like to get outside. I don't want to play virtual soccer. I want to go play soccer. I want my kid to learn soccer. And you know what? I would love for her to be able to use some sort of augmented reality to become her training partner that would motivate her. And I see a ton of potential there. And Pokemon is just the tip of the iceberg for what's possible.
And I think, part of the reason I love live streaming and video is, the relationships that I believe you can build via video is a powerful thing. And I see Amy Schmidt-Tastic here just came in the room, one of the YouTube thought leaders out there that is doing great things in the video space. And so much about video is about connecting. It's about building relationships. It's about allowing people to look you in your digital eyeballs. But like you said, Daniel, I think, for those that are listening, the augmented reality, virtual reality conversation, augmented reality is overlaying on your existing view, your existing reality, and where virtual reality is transcending and taking you outside of the current dimensions where you're at. And I love there's some people on Periscope that are comments. I know Donald here on Blab made the comment about the GPS tracking and the data. And I mean, we are getting more and more to this concept of not only where we're going to go, but the importance of data in this realm is, when Daniel, you and I were at Mobile World Congress. You were at it this year. I was there with you 2 years ago. And one of my favorite technologies that at that point that still has not really been adopted widely yet was the beacon technology, because I had gone on my app and I had picked which things I wanted to make sure I see and didn't miss. And as I was walking down this giant, huge CES, bigger than CES type expo floor that had 75,000 to 100,000 people there, it prompted me and said, hey, remember, you want to see this Samsung booth. You're walking by it right now. And to me, man, that was powerful. That was awesome. It increased my experience, right? So if you're walking in a mall, like I always talk about it, like for me, when I drive by Home Depot, something should prompt me and say, hey, you have a list that says you need to go into Home Depot. You should probably stop, because I think those are the places where them leveraging that data, them leveraging our GPS, not only does it become beneficial for us from an experience and a productivity aspect, but I also think this is where the sales and marketing comes to serving and less about sales, because if you're serving me up that kind of information so that I go into your store, you don't have to sell me to come into your store. You don't have to give me a coupon. You're gonna make it, that kind of integrated into my workflow in my life. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna jump in. I'm gonna, although both of us are Monster drinking and Dunkin' Donut coffee drinkers, I always talk about driving past Starbucks to get the Dunkin', and I love Dunkin's app, and I think Dunkin's app is another sign of like ways we can integrate it. And imagine that, like imagine Pokemon Go that integrates Apple Pay and also integrates 2 or 3 other aspects of these mobile features. So we have a beacon technology, we have some of these other layers. It is really going to be a fun place that we're getting to. And if you're as a small, medium-sized business, haven't started looking at video to start with, I say this all the time. If you don't have a strategy that embraces video, you will never have a strategy that embraces augmented reality or virtual reality. You need to start looking and understanding the importance of video, production video, as well as live video.
Yeah, and I think that's a little bit tangential, but it's a super important point. And I'm sure there's people out there, Vinny, who you talked about earlier, would appreciate that, right, with his new business. But the interesting thing you brought up, Brian, and we talked about this on Cloud Talk yesterday. And if you haven't checked it out, check out #Cloud Talk. But we talked about the bots, chatbots, AI, and we talked a little bit about app usage and how bots could potentially replace AI, applications, because no longer do you need to go in app, but you could just talk to the machine. Well, one of the things that you just kind of mentioned, I think is important, is right now users spend more than 90% of their time on less than 5 apps on their devices.
Woo.
Okay. So think about that. You spend most of your time on only a few apps. So if you're a brand or a customer, so this is the actionable part of the show, right? And you're looking at what they're doing with Pokemon, you're looking at what they're doing with apps and gaming, and you want to figure out how to take this and put it into your business. Remember, people don't use that many apps. So you have to think about the value proposition. When Brian talked about that, if you get more value from participating, more value from usage than you care, as Donald had said, he doesn't want his stuff tracked. Well, listen, if I get more value than concern out of what's being tracked, then I'll use the app. There are very few apps, though, out there that we walk away from, Brian, thinking I'm getting more value from this app. And that's why so many things we download and never use again is because you're like, I don't need to use this app. I don't get enough value out of the app. I don't want to pay for the app. And I certainly don't want this app feeding me ads that aren't relevant to me. So, I'm going to stop using it. And whether or not I ever, undownload it, what do you even call that, right? It just goes in a folder somewhere. What do you even call that anymore? You remove it from your machine.
You're uninstalling it. Yeah, you're just
uninstall it. There you go. I undownloaded it. That's my new word.
You pushed it back into the cloud.
I pushed it back. I said no. The point is that when you're creating this app, and that's what I guess I meant, is when people find more value than fear of what they're giving in exchange for that value, you will build a high level of adoption and a very loyal user base. Now, here's something though, Brian, as we kind of wrap this show up, let's go back to something that a lot of people are questioning right now. Well, I have acknowledged in the show today that Pokemon Go is a proof point that augmented reality will succeed in the world. Is Pokemon Go fad or future? Where will this be in 6 weeks? And then where will it be in a year?
It will be where Angry Birds is today, at 2.5 years after Angry Birds. I think it's still trending on massive usage for a niche audience that is looking for gaming. I think you'll see people pick it up as they travel more. People will pick it up as they enter a big city and are looking for some entertainment. Maybe look at it as one of those things where you're gathering. I saw someone in the comments here said something about they were going to a food truck event on the weekend, and they were planning on spending some time, playing Pokemon Go there at the food truck. So I don't look this as I think this is just definitely is a proof of concept. I firmly believe that you have to have proof of concepts and guinea pigs in any of these spaces to kind of push the envelope. I mean, imagine if this came out when Google Glass was out. Maybe we would have seen Google Glass adoption kind of, hit a upward tick. I mean, why is Apple Watch not integrated into the Pokemon Go situation? I think that's probably just because Apple isn't in that space yet and hasn't gone down that path. But, I think there's also this element of, not only do we not know if it's a fad, but I wrote a blog post today about change and the ever-changing landscape that we're seeing. And I think, it is really hard to predict. And for anyone that, I saw a couple of people's comments about, not wanting to be tracked or the data. That's today, and that's with today's mindset. When you're starting to be able to ask questions you never knew you wanted to ask, or you never knew could be asked, then there's places and opportunities. One of my favorite ones still is the idea that your windshield could actually be running, eye sensor technology to understand when you get tired, and would actually prompt you with options and letting you know that you're tired, or slow your car. There's so many of these things that become, that we have never asked the question. Therefore, we're still in a mindset that says, I don't want to be tracked. I don't want to be given my data. When I don't have my phone in my hand, I don't want to be bothered by it. But I also like to think of the idea that we also would have said 10 years ago that we would never carry around our phone in our house. You know, like our phone is on a wall. You know, if back then we had a phone that was in our bag or we had a pager. Why the hell would we ever carry a phone around with us? And now, you know, it's funny. The phone is something that is, you know, more important for me most of the time than my keys and my wallet, because I can buy everything from my phone. So I think the Pokemon Go, in my opinion, is a great proof of concept for participatory content, the idea of GPS integration, and really the craving need of today's culture consumer to interact and engage with other people in the community. And I think that's a good thing.
Oh, absolutely, Brian. And I think you brought up a great point, timing. For every business out there that's thinking about all these technologies, timing is so important. Nintendo probably nailed this from a timing standpoint. They might have had this developed 3 years ago. This isn't new. Google Glass was around. Google Glass failed because of timing, and maybe a little bit because it was a little bulky. It was a little too much. But I think as technology gets leaner, smaller, consumerized, right, as it shrinks down in terms of its physical, right, decomposition of it, and you can turn it into where it really is no bigger than a pair of Ray-Bans or whatever glasses you're wearing, and it's all built in. I think people are going to use it. I think you'll see us go back to that. You see the contact lenses, because I do think probably the reason some of the problems with AR still exist is because we're like this, right? We're walking around like this.
Yep.
And I'm showing, you know, for those of you listening, I have my hand out with the phone in my hand, looking at it. And the point is, you know, we walk around. If you could just naturally walk around and opt into a game like Pokemon and be seeing them, but not necessarily have to be holding your phone up all the time, I think people would participate even more. And then all those other learning ideas I had, right, become way more powerful. Footwork for a girls volleyball player, right? You know, modeling of stitching for someone that wants to become an artist, or sewing clothes design, whatever. Point is, as it becomes more intuitive and it's not actually requiring us to hold that device in our hand to live in an augmented reality society, Brian, I think it's incredibly exciting where the future could go. And I'm willing to trade my data for it. And I know not everybody is, but I'd certainly be willing to trade mine. I'm pretty sure I'm giving it away anyway. I'm pretty sure even when I opt out, I'm still giving it away. So let's just say if you want to use the device at all, you have to be willing, Brian, to accept a certain lack of control. If you don't want to be tracked, don't have a phone, don't have a mobile device, don't have a computer, don't connect to the internet, don't go outside, don't have an alarm system, don't have cable, because anything that connects you to the digital world is opening it up. And really, no matter what they tell us in our policies, are you planning to spend the money and the time and the legal to figure out whether or not they're truly tracking you or not? I'm not. I know it's a little conspiracy-esque, but I think it's important to point that out.
I was picturing my old boss in the Pentagon when one of these guys was really riding him a hard time, and he said, "How can I make that box secure?" And the guy goes up there and rips the power cord out of the wall, throws the power cord in the trash can, and says, "Now it's secure as a rock." And the fact that it was not even plugged in and no longer, you know, and I'll leave people with a stat that I talk about a lot in live streaming, and it's the same here in augmented reality and Pokemon Go. Google was the 27th search engine to break into search engine, and now it's Google. So the idea that tech adoption, that change, and you need some of these, I think you hit probably the most important aspect there of timing being so important. I mean, there was 5 mobile live streaming apps that came out before Meerkat. They came out too early in the culture and our phones, and the cameras weren't ready. And sure enough, I think you're onto something there. I think the timing of this was perfect in many aspects. Even the timing in the year, from a U.S. perspective, not many sports were going on at the time. Summertime was kind of coming towards the end of summer, where people are already thinking about going out. So lots kudos to Nintendo. You know, as both of us grew up on Nintendo and Sega Genesis, it's nice seeing a little throwback love there. So thank you guys so much for listening to this episode of Smack Talk, which stands for Social, Mobile, Analytics, and Cloud. We are here every single week. We do broadcast live on Fridays. So make sure you like our Facebook page. We're going to throw you to our Facebook page, as we're going to put a lot of our broadcasting there, and some of that breaking news that Daniel hinted at, we're going to break that breaking news over there on our Facebook channel. So go to facebook.com/Smack Talk Live Podcast. We'll make sure that is in the show notes as well. Give us a like over there on Facebook. Send us a message. Let us know future guests, future conversations you would like to see on this show. Thank you for leaving a review on the iTunes, the Stitchers, and all of those other fun places. I believe, Daniel, you and I are going to go record some promo for one of those exciting things offline. So we don't record much that isn't live stream, but this one we're going to record a little bit back channel. But thank you guys so much for listening, and good luck playing Pokemon Go. Please stay out of traffic. Remember, no technology will fix stupid. Don't be stupid. Thanks, guys.
See you later.
All right, dude, we're off. Good stuff.
All right, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you guys for all watching.
This tech conspiracist is getting off the air. Just remember, I don't really have a conspiracy because I don't care. They can have it all. Follow me. That would be so boring. You can follow everything I do.
I love it, dude. Our audience is so global. We had Australia, UK, we had Middle East, and we had Germany. And on Facebook, we even had Japan tuning in on odd hours over there. We got Denmark for Donna. Look at that. Global Smack Talk audience, guys. We appreciate it. We jump back on Blab, and you guys jump back and show up. So as long as Blab doesn't go anywhere, we'll be back on Blab for this show next Friday as well. Daniel, I will message you on the Skypes, and we can do the promo. 6:40 a.m. Chaka Johnny, get ready for that Periscope of your
nothing but love from you beautiful people. We will see you.
I'll message you over there.
Bye-bye.
Later. Thank you guys so much. Thank you.